Bigger than capes.
Give me some sadness.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and then I watched it.
Oh, right.
Hello, welcome to Bigger Than Capes. I'm Zach. I'm joined by Angela and Matt. It's our August roundup thing.
Hey.
Yay!
Will is absent this episode because after, I'm going to say he recommended the Square Enix manga reading app. He's taken a vow of silence in penitence. So he is here with us.
Penitence a real word?
Yes, he is.
Only the penitent man shall pass is the only phrase that I know.
He is a penitent, and it would have been in penance, but yes, he is a penitent.
Mm.
And yeah, if you read up on that thing, it sounds like a nightmare. But yeah, we have comic books, 4 of them. We read them. We're going to talk about them.
That's how this works.
That's basically the premise of the thing.
I know. I never thought I could sum it up so eloquently.
Perfect.
Without Will here, I'm able to use 100% of my brain.
You make it sound like you have to split your brain with Will in a kind of...
Do you think that either of us seem like functional humans when we're together?
Well, no, but...
yeah.
I wasn't looking into it that deeply. It seemed safer not to. And that silence says it all. I don't think we've really got any news today, as far as I'm aware. So should we just do some general, what y'all been doing kind of junk?
We can do that.
Sweet. What y'all been doing?
Yeah, that sums it up, doesn't it?
Busy week.
Busy people.
What have I been doing? Reading books. I read some really good 60s sci-fi recently. That's been cool. Going to political rallies and stuff, socialist stuff. It's pretty neat. And occasionally playing some video games. I've honestly, apart from doing a reread of Vagabond, I've not been doing that much comics stuff. And I'm still waiting on my Orphan trade.
I'm told it could arrive any week now. That, look at you going outside and stuff. La-dee-da. I have read some comics. I'm trying. I've basically told myself I'm not going to back any Kickstarters until I've read the existing Kickstarters.
Good idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I have read pretty much in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I've read all 4 Quiltopias.
Oh, neat.
Which is really good. The next one's going to be the last one, which is interesting. Which then obviously means there'll be some kind of nice collected edition that I'm going to feel like I should also back. But I'm not going to bow to the pressure. I'm stronger than that. Also, I'll still have 200 Kickstarters to finish. But it's really good. We should probably do a Quiltopia episode when that last one comes out.
I would love that.
And I know they're meant to be doing the animated series still, which any week now, I guess. No, I don't. It's due out. I also read It Took Luke, which I have no idea when I backed that, but it was like a 1-issue thing about monster hunting, as one does, which was really good and seems like a very Matt kind of thing. So Matt, look up It Took Luke.
Okay.
And I've read most of Crock and Roll. I could finish reading that any day now.
Yeah.
Started reading it when Hamish was sending out the PDFs, and then I've got the trade that I've not finished, so that's nice.
But I'm sure it looks good, like as a trade on your shelf.
Yeah, it's great. It's
cracking. Good spine.
Yeah, sure.
That's what a chiropractor often says.
Cracking good spine. Anything I watched Sandman. Sandman is the thing I watched.
Good.
Yeah, if you like the idea that Sandman could be a TV show, so you never need to read those trades again. Yeah, it's plays around with the order of things a little bit. The Corinthian matters way sooner, but overall, pretty faithful to the comics, to the point of being like, I was gonna reread some of it before watching it. I was like, I'll see. And I'm like, wow, I didn't need to reread this. I remember this. This is how it looks. This is how it goes. It's good. It's fine. It's okay. You'll have a good time if you like Sandman. You're gonna have a Sandman time. If you
Which
don't
is
like
kind
Sandman,
of what you'd hope.
Yeah. I would go as far as to say it is the most faithful comic book adaptation I have seen since Watchmen.
Ooh.
Which was a little bit too faithful, except for that bit that wasn't. Come on, Matt, fight me.
I was thinking about whether it was about the faithfulness of it, and I was like, there is that. It is missing the big squid.
True, they did improve the ending. I agree.
I mean, I'm trying to think if I can really fight that.
It's a hard argument to make.
I've
seen it done, but it's, I don't know. It's nice that Sandman's finally getting its adaptation. I very much enjoy when it takes 30 years to try and adapt something from source material. I look forward to the 30-year wait for the 2020s good comic books to get adapted in the 2050s. So that's all my cynicism done. Angela, you been busy?
No. No.
Rad.
Taking the dog on a walk every day because you have to. Apparently,
dogs work.
You got to take them for walks. Aside from that, it's a bit of a time drain. I read some stuff. I enjoyed some stuff. There you go. I'm reading How to Train Your Dragon, which I don't care if you say it's a children's book. It's my nephew's favourite series. So I am, in an effort to bond, I am now rereading How to Train Your Dragon. I read it when it first came out many years ago, but I couldn't remember anything about it. And the films are completely different.
Yeah, my understanding has always been that the dragon's way smaller and
Yeah, so
friendlier.
Toothless in the films is the big Black Knight Fury, super special, all the rest of it. Yes. Toothless in the books is a tiny little common or garden dragon who just hates things, and he doesn't want to go and catch fish, and he doesn't want to do anything. He just wants to curl up, and he's tiny as well. He's quite a small dragon. So, yeah, it's kind of weird to see how they adapted it because they took the names. That's it. That's basically it.
Yeah.
They didn't really follow much of it at all.
Yeah, that scans with what people have told me in the past. I'm told the books are good and the films are good, so I guess everybody wins.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of a Sandman adaptation. It's like we'll make you read the books and then you'll go, man, these books are completely different to the film, and the television series spun off the film.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Do those TV spin-offs now. It's weird because it reminds me of like when when the Disney Channel used to do all the spin-offs in like the 90s.
Yeah.
The Timon and Pumbaa show and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like with the in the Aladdin TV show that had Dan Castellaneta in it. I think most of them probably had Dan Castellaneta in them. Like the Hercules one as well.
Yeah.
Once you've got someone in the studio, it's easy to keep them there.
Yeah.
Just lock the doors. It's fine.
Totally fine. Shall we roll into
please
the bulk of this rather than trying to drag out our nonsense?
Please save me.
Yeah.
So, with that in mind, Angela, would you like to get us started with our first book of our August roundup?
I certainly shall. So, the first book is The Deadliest Bouquet, published by Image. The writer, and she also did the letters, the infamous Erica Schultz. We've come across her before. The art is Carol Borelli. The colours are Gab Contreras. The edits are James Emety. Don't know what the edits were. And the cover is by Adriana Mello and Dijo Lima. I apologise for anyone's name I've mispronounced, probably all of them. So The Deadliest Bouquet is set in a flower shop, and flower names will be important. So we have Jasmine Hawthorne, who runs a flower shop. She has 3 daughters, whom she has named Poppy, Rose and Violet. See what she did there. Jasmine Hawthorne, basically, in flashbacks, we discover threw her husband down the stairs and killed him, essentially, and buried him in the back garden, as you do, and brought her daughters up in some kind of weird way where they, can throw knives with precision and all of that. Anyway, Jasmine has been murdered. And this brings the sisters together. They're a little bit estranged because Poppy and Violet sort of left the family home. Poppy's got married to a chap called Derek Winterberry and has 2 children, Holly and Asta. See what she did there. And so the family come back together. There is a Detective Bayani, and the police Officer Gutierrez. And they are investigating this murder, but the girls are like, we need to investigate this murder. And there is much talking about their past and how their mother brought them up and what they are going to do about the fact that their mother's been murdered in her own shop. And that's the plot there.
The summary mentions that, says that their mother was a Nazi hunter.
Yeah, because she has a specific tattoo as well, which is Officer Gutierrez handily tells her was like a resistance tattoo. But obviously the mother, this is set in the 90s as well, but she suggests that the mother was too young at the time to have been part of the resistance movement. She would have been a child during the Second World War, but clearly it's important. And is mentioned. Poppy's husband Derek is kind of supposedly normal and comes in, and also is very good at abandoning his children in hotel rooms and saying, "It's fine, kids, we'll get pizza later." Which terrible
No, he
parenting.
says they're going to take him out to the pool.
He does then, but there's the implication when he first takes them in there that he's just going to lock them in the hotel room. I had to read it twice before I realised he may not have been doing that. To be fair, not many of these characters are especially likeable. Violet is violent. Rose feels hard done by because she was left looking after mum. And Poppy's tried to move on from her horrendous past by getting married and having children. They've all got issues. I think at one point there is a line. I think Derek says something like they're a bit dysfunctional as they're arguing about possibly going after the people that killed their mother. So yeah, it's family drama with added possible assassin kind of level, bringing up your kids, and also murder. That's it. Yeah.
I had forgotten the blurb for this book between us choosing this book and me reading this book.
Me too.
And I'd kind of projected what I was expecting onto this, and then I didn't get any of it. So, how do I explain this? When everyone was like plant named, and then there were 3 daughters, I was really expecting witches and magic.
Yeah, that probably would have made more sense than I taught my daughters to be like secret assassin killers.
Yeah, sudden assassins had. Well, it was a surprise, but probably because I'd forgotten the blurb more than anything.
I think because you'd forgotten the blurb.
Yeah, but also, you know,
I think that's maybe a little bit unfair.
It's unfair, but I think if you name your characters plant names and then, you know, have a trio of them, I think there's an expectation to fulfill that there's going to be some magic there.
I mean, I automatically went to keeping up appearances because...
Oh, yeah, Hyacinth.
Yeah.
Hyacinth,
okay, yeah.
Rose and Violet. And I was like, yeah, this is just like that ancient sitcom where they named all the kids after flowers. Yeah, that's where I went.
Overall, this just massively didn't click with me. Excluding the thing about the blurb, I just don't know what really to make of this. It feels like quite cliche in a lot of spaces, with especially the character, you know, the aggressive black sheep sister, the nice homemaker sister, and then the one who stayed with them. It almost comes off as like, you know, Orphan Black, where we kind of have the, I can't remember the character names. The one who's become a mum and has kids and lives in the suburbs, and then the one who's, you know, Sarah. Sarah's the main one who's a criminal and she's all dodgy and such. And I feel like we've got those same kind of, what are the different versions of this person we could have, but with sisters. Also, man, this issue sure does end, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really threw me. I don't really know what to say.
My main kind of thing of this, because it didn't really click for me either, was that I just found it very overwritten. Like the dialogue in particular, stuff like the characters, kind of their exposition to kind of tell, like, as they it's very exposition heavy in it, and like the way that characters will say, like, oh, knives are usually like the thing I do, me, Violet, who is also violent because like it's alliterative,
and it just
and such, like all this that I found, I struggled to click, like, and it you know, I don't have sisters, and you know, I like, and wasn't raised to seemingly, like, you know, hunt Nazis, so I don't know how that changes, like, how you talk with your siblings, but my siblings and I, you know, we don't have, it's not that sort of like cutesy, overwritten, no, cutesy's an unfair term, like, but the kind of cloying, like, alliterative like descriptor nicknames and stuff, I just found very just very overwritten, and it just kept taking me out of it. It didn't feel like something anyone would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's quite heavy on dialogue, but not necessarily like essential dialogue. And I think there is a lot of characters saying each other's names. And whilst I think it's good to establish each character by name, especially if there's going to be quite a lot of characters. It does feel like there's a lot of. So, Matt, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yes.
Angela, what are your thoughts? And
Yeah.
it never really stops.
I think the problem as well is it could have been quite an interesting crime book with family drama, like, oh, who killed our mother? Is this related to the murder of our father that our mother committed? You had a really interesting hook there just with that. And sibling relationships, admittedly, I don't have sisters. I don't know how it goes. But I'm reliably informed by people that have them that sister relationships are different to the ones you have with brothers. So I can kind of, it is overwritten and the dialogue is very stilted at points, like deliberately, here's your name. I think there is some attempt to try and write a realistic sisterly relationship that doesn't quite work. But all you needed to do was have that murder and then have these sisters come back together and just go on about that. You don't necessarily need the Nazi hunting assassin angle. It just feels like that's thrown in there for reasons. It's like you could have had an interesting crime, like, is the detective gonna uncover the fact that, mum had murdered her husband? Are they going to do more of an investigation? You could have had a really interesting crime hook. Or a magic hook, alternatively, and it just feels like it's a really weird combination of, crime, but also family drama, but quite cliched, stilted family drama, but also knives. Doesn't quite fit. It feels like the pieces could have been better put together.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't know where this is going to go. I think there's options for this to perhaps come together and get interesting and find its feet. It might just be a bit of a feeling out for the first issue. There are quite a lot of things to establish with the three sisters, their backstory, the story of what happened to their father. But I don't know. It feels like there's a lot to kind of tidy up along the way already. I was confused as well by the mother, whose name I've already forgotten.
Jasmine Hawthorne.
Being in her late 40s in 1998 and therefore being old enough to have been a child in World War II would mean she was in her late 50s, surely.
Yes.
Otherwise, she would have been born pretty clearly after 1950, surely.
Yeah. If she's in her 40s, It doesn't quite track that at all.
That was something that immediately stuck out to me. Was it's 98, she's in her late 40s, World War II tattoo. I feel like the years are at least a little bit askew.
To be fair, there might be a actual, that might turn out to be a plot point.
True. That is an option to kind of intentionally. We think she's in her 40s and she isn't, or the tattoo is much newer or whatever. I don't know. There's all kinds of options. But I don't know. That did stick out to me as times don't make sense. I'm also curious as to why 1998.
Yeah, nothing.
Sometimes just because, as someone who does a lot of tabletop roleplay and has done modern systems, what really interferes with having a compelling mystery and often action mystery?
Phones.
The wide availability of phones.
So true.
Yeah, that is true. And I still love how all horror films are like, any horror film set now is like, first things first, a phone's part of the plot, or we're getting rid of phones somehow.
We're just jettisoning them. We're not even mentioning them, or are we going to mention them and they just can't get a signal?
Also, if it weren't the 90s, then she couldn't have flown on Concorde.
True, that was the first. Even though I'd read it was 98 when she dropped the Concorde line, I'm like,
yeah,
98. Gotcha. I don't. It's weird because Concords are one of those things that are so incredibly 90s that it's hard to know what else you could drop in that's as 90s, other than like pages or
Oh, pages,
dial-up
though.
connection.
Oh, those were the days. AOL Messenger. Just AOL in general.
Painful reminder of AOL.
Yeah.
Interesting how AOL ended up being used in England. Where was UK Online?
UKOL.
That sounds like a question. Like,
UKOL. Where is UKOL?
Yeah. AOL.
UKOL.
Got to get that trademark while I've got the...
Get it out there now. Anyway, so in conclusion, Deadliest Bouquet, nah.
Kinda, yeah. I don't have a lot to add, and I feel like I should. But my main points were kind of not sure about time periods, and that the ending just surprised me because there isn't one. It's just there's no like. I don't know, like some of the books we've read this month and some of the books we always read have like a little signing off, like next month, or, you know, to be continued, not just, you know, knife pointed at you, fade, not even a fade to black.
There's not even a fade to black, there's nothing.
It's a fade to advert for Declan Shelby's new comic.
I thought that was, honestly, I kept going because I thought, oh, right, they've just stuck an advert in and then they'll pick it up afterwards. No, they did not.
Which is worse because there's an advert and then there's a preview for another comic. So I kept reading thinking, man, this has changed direction.
This is very different now.
The hell's happening here? And it's like, oh, nothing. This is the preview for Flawed, not... I don't know. I'm confused. I think things. But no more than I've already said. And on that note, I'll be introducing our second book of this month, which is from Vault. Goes by the name of Heart Eyes #1. It's written by Dennis Hopeless, who I could have sworn dropped the Hopeless a couple of years ago and was being Dennis Hallam.
No, he's brought it back because he did EXO under Dennis Hopeless.
Yeah, right.
Style.
Made it very difficult to tag on Twitter, just going to say.
Yes. I mean, I'm a big fan of Dennis Hopeless as I was going to say stage name. That's not the right term. Pseudonym.
Yeah.
Dennis Hopeless is...
Plume.
Thank you, Matt. Making it all French for a second there. Written by Dennis Hopeless. Artist is Victor Ibanez. Colorist is Addison Duke. And letterer is Simon Boland. What's Heart Eyes, I hear you ask? Heart
Eyes?
Thanks, Angela. Don't know what I'd do without you here. Probably talk to Matt more, I guess. Heart Eyes is...
What's Heart Eyes?
Damn it. Heart Eyes follows the story of Lupe, and as she strolls around a world that has ended, in essence, as one day monsters appear and eat everyone and destroy the world.
Yeah, Lovecraftian horrors from beyond your imagination that drive you insane.
Yeah, nightmare creatures that are all tentacles and eyes and numerous variant covers. Thanks, Vault. Love it. Nightmare creatures, lot of tentacles, lot of eyes, lot of End of Watchmen vibes. Graphic novel, not comic book. No, wait, what am I talking about? Graphic novel, not film. Graphic novel and comic book are very similar for Watchmen. I wish I had a point. But for some reason, Lupe is just strolling around out in the open. Everything's going to be okay. However, while she's wandering around out in the open, unafraid, she is rescued from her casual walk down the street after she steals the plushy octopus she's always wanted by Rico, who is part of a family who are surviving the apocalypse in a kind of accessible only by the sewers, water pipes kind of facility. An electrical engineer relative has managed to rig up all kinds of wonderful technology. Love it when you solve a problem by just introducing an engineer. And basically, Lupe and Rico are the same kind of age, so they're all like, hey, let's go hang out in the apocalypse, am I right? And the family are all like, no, kids, you'll die. There's monsters outside. And that's largely this issue. They hang out, and the family try and go, dude, don't hang out, you'll die. Lovecraftian horrors and such.
Yeah.
This one, tonally a little bit weird, kind of immediately kind of Lupe is kind of childlike, but then we seem to get to horny quite quickly, which is a bit of a breakneck kind of twist, but sure, why not? I guess if she's been, raised herself in the apocalypse, surrounded by aliens, monster, beast, creature, demons, I don't know what these are. We don't know what these are yet. You're likely to be a little bit unpredictable. We also get glimpses of her life before the apocalypse. That's a weird sentence. With her kind of alcoholic uncle, which seems like not a great start for her as a character. And we're kind of given hints as to Rico and his family's kind of past traumas and losses. There's quite a lot to unpack here, all in all, I think. Anyone?
Yes.
What you guys got? Hit me.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on. Because it starts off like your basic apocalyptic dystopia, and then you've just got this young woman walking down the street, and I like that complete and utter weird disconnect that, hey, the apocalypse, evil monsters, and also she just wants an octopus plushie.
Don't we all,
That's kind of, as a character introduction, it's a good one. And then there's Rico, and then there's all the whole, the survivalist family who, I suppose it's kind of like, they're surviving, but are they really living? There's this kind of a hint, like, Rico's 17, he spent a lot of his years with the horrors of the world and dystopia and all the rest of it, and he just wants to go out there and, for once, experience the world in a different way, and all his family are like, no, it's dangerous. And it's your classic teenage rebellion, but with the twist that, this teenager could get eaten by a Lovecraftian nightmare.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is, interesting. Also, I like the fact she's, like, the waterfall freaks her. She's like, I can't swim. I'm not going through with the wall of water with you, sir. And it's like, no, it's fine.
What is it she calls it? She calls it like a drowning wall or something.
Yeah, that's it, the drowning wall. I like that. I like the drowning
I like that.
Yeah.
That's quite amusing.
Yeah, so I had similar weird feelings about kind of Lupe tonally at points.
Yeah.
Like you did. And again, like, it's I'm trying to not kind of think too much on that, and but I overall I quite liked this, or at least feel like it has some potential, partially just because who the team is on this.
Yeah.
But I also quite like a number of the design ideas we see at various points. There's a couple of really good panels where we see where we get a flashback from Rico of his granddad killing his grandmother, where we kind of see a small creature.
You like this because of Starro?
No. I like it just because of the way, I like the way the kind of face like the faces are kind of merged until kind of it separates from her, and
just like Starro.
Kinda okay.
It's okay, Matt. I like Starro too.
Yeah, so it feels like there's something interesting going on. Her uncle is seemingly responsible for for bringing through the monsters.
Mm.
And as she was there as they first came through, she seems to have some sort of bond with them, and to have been kind of touched by it in a way that gives her some sort of kind of immunity or control. And she's like interesting enough. Like, as a character, like you said, there's some interesting turns of phrase that I really like you say, the drowning wall and stuff is just a really neat phrase to describe a waterfall if you've never seen one. And overall the book looks really good. Like, it's got some, I love the shade of like nuclear green yellow that's used to kind of like represent when the various horrors are about and stuff. Yeah, I fairly enjoyed this.
Yeah, I agree. I think visually this is really nice, and I am quite intrigued by Lupe and her backstory and if her uncle has indeed, summoned interdimensional monsters. That's we've all been drunk.
We've all been there.
Happens to the best of us. So I am kind of curious as to where this is going to go, and I do have, like Matt said, quite a lot of faith in the members of this creative team to do something pretty interesting. Even if it is kind of a slightly weird start, but it happens.
It's a weird but interesting start. It's not a bad start. It's a words and the meaning of them.
I feel you.
It does draw you in a little bit, and it helps that Lupe's kind of an interesting character, which is good because there's a lot of her in this. And it does feel like there is thought behind all the different relationships with the people in the past and the present. So I also have faith in the creative team, and I think it could be interesting. Heart Eyes has potential. I think it has some of the best potential of the books this month. I think it has more potential than the Deadliest Bouquet in many regards, because I actually like the characters.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the characters feel a lot more defined after only one issue.
And it's like, even though you have some weird exposition, like Rico's like, and this is Tyson, my brother-in-law, it's not done in a really awkward way. And it's like, it takes a while to actually learn Rico's name. Like, Lupe even calls him out, like, but I don't even know your name.
Yeah.
And it still actually takes him a while to tell her who he is. So it does feel quite natural. The relationships feel quite normal, even though it's not normal at all, the situation that they're in.
I agree with that. I also think I meant to mention this when I was talking about like visuals and stuff, that Asphalt are the ones who include every single possible variant cover. There are some really good ones here. Big fan of the Jenny Frisson ones. I think there's like 3 different ones that are all coloured differently, that are all really nice. Or maybe only 2 different ones. I can't tell. They're too far apart. Also, there's a Burnham and Russell one. I want to say I can't remember Burnham's first name. and it doesn't say, but variant covers are good.
Yes. I do like the Volta, like, here's all the variant covers.
Yeah, I think
it's nice.
Image more often than not include them in the back, or sometimes include them in the back at least. But I like that Vault are like, hey, we're going to give you what is this, like a 40-page PDF, but like half of it is different variant covers. And you know, it clearly works, because we're sat here talking about them. So whatever.
Yeah. Well done, Vault.
Congrats, Vault.
Works.
You've manipulated us again.
Damn you.
Does anyone have anything else to add, or shall we move on?
I don't have anything else to add.
More for me.
So, shall we move on to the life and death of the brave Captain Suave?
Bit wordy, that one, isn't it? But
yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay, we're just going to call it Captain Suave shortly.
Good call.
Yeah, I'm not going to say all that. So, the ridiculously titled book is published by Scout Comics. The writer is Joseph Saraki. The artist is Kelly Williams. The letterer is Taylor Esposito. Just throwing in the extra people. The logo design was Jimmy Presler. The editor was Andrea Lorenzo Molinari. And production was Marcus Gilori. I'm sure I pronounced that incorrectly. Right. So, the life and death of the brave Captain Suave is a weird one. So, Captain Suave is actually pretty much a homeless guy who collects comic books. And I think the narration even says, basically, this guy's mentally ill. This is the plot point. And he juxtaposes himself in his current homeless form with Captain Suave, who is sort of like a golden silver age kind of comic book hero who goes about rescuing people. So he's seeing situations through the lens of the media which he has consumed. So, for example, there is a burning building and Captain Suave rushes in to rescue a baby, and it turns out to be a guy's collection of weed, basically. And he recruits this chap, who is Stanley, who will be referred to by Captain Suave as Champ. Because, you know, that's what the heroes used to call their sidekicks, because he's a hero and he needs a sidekick. So Stanley Champ goes along with this. I mean, he was smoking a joint, so maybe it's not one of the best decisions he's made. As Captain Suave goes about the city, so like the wind turbine is the Hydra, his worst enemy, and he has to go and stop the wind turbine because the wind turbine blows his comics and therefore is evil, and he goes and fights it. And yeah, he sees things not as they are, but sort of how they are in his head. But we see sort of both sides of it. So we see like a panel of what's actually happening in reality, and then the panel next to it is like the Captain Suave one, and this is what actually how he's interpreting what's going on. Mm-hmm. And then at the end he gets into a fight, and the next issue is going to be him fighting with a bouncer. Random. So it is a bit of a weird one. It seems to almost be sort of a rumination on like comics now and comics then, and it's using this as a weird narrative device. It's using a homeless mentally ill guy as a narrative device, which is maybe problematic. Just slightly. That's probably my main problem with this. I mean, the actual thing that it's trying to do, I can respect. You know, it's interesting to compare things through a different lens, but I'm not convinced that this is possibly the best way to be doing it, in that, you know, you're taking this mentally ill guy who's hooking up with a guy who, you know, deals drugs by all accounts. And yeah, so what it's trying to do is interesting. Tonally, it shifts all over the shop. Tonally, it's like, this is serious, but also, it's like, do you laugh at the guy or with the guy? The book doesn't know half the time whether you're meant to be laughing at him or with him, or whether you're meant to have sympathy with him, or whether you're just meant to go, oh, that crazy guy. Doesn't know. The book doesn't really tell you. And then it ends on a cliffhanger. And I like how it does have some self-awareness at the end, and it's like, yeah, but cliffhangers, because they make money for publishers, because you'll come and read the next issue.
Yeah.
So there are interesting ideas, but the execution problematic. Discuss.
This is possibly going to be like for a limited audiences, but it reminds me more than anything of the of that Mitchell and Webb look sketch.
Yeah, right.
The Surprising Adventures of Sir Digby Chicken Caesar.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Where except like with a bit more of a just a little bit more kind of conscience to its portrayal of homelessness and mental illness. Like I don't think it's actually like I do think that its heart is in the right place, but
It is.
Or is at least trying to be
It's
in the
trying.
right place.
yeah, I just like, and that it's not just trying to linger in misery,
Mm.
True.
which is something that like is far too easy to do with this sort of subject matter. But I just don't really know. Like it has some okay paneling at points, and hops kind of between art styles fairly well. But yeah,
Yeah, largely agreeing with the words Matt has just said. The Mitchell and Webb thing was basically one of my only notes about this was that it feels weirdly like that at times. I don't even know if that's a conscious thing or just completely coincidental. I'm going to assume coincidental because I feel like
yeah,
that Mitchell and Webb look, the Mitchell and Webb, whatever it's called, is pretty niche, but who knows? In terms of art, I thought it was actually a pretty good book. I think the visuals are really nice, and I do like the kind of golden age panels. I think they work really nicely. Tone is kind of all over the place, but I think Matt's right, and it is. I can't believe I'm saying Matt's right. It hurts.
Shocking.
And it is partially intentional to not be too bleak and to try and illustrate that it is talking about the shift between the kind of classic and modern comics. One thing that, other than the thing with the wind turbine,
Yeah.
I'm not feeling a lot of the modern retelling of Don Quixote.
No. There are little nods to it, but
yeah, like
yeah.
Champ is clearly his Sancho Panza.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's fairly clearly like a Cervantes kind of pastiche or retelling.
I can see the points where it's kind of touching on it, but I don't think it's the most immediate. Like, I think if I hadn't read that information, I'm not sure I would have. I think I would have just seen the fighting windmills as a one-off, like, oh yeah, I recognize this reference. Whereas,
Yeah.
I think,
Well, you see, Zach, he saw those windmills and he thought that they might be giants.
and on that note, I'm going to go.
Yeah. They thought they might be fake. They might be liars. They might be big fake liars.
Well played.
Yeah.
I hope you're happy.
I mean, never, but yeah. That's why I share my misery.
Very true. So I think that's more or less everything I have for this. I have kind of mixed feelings about the overall vibe, but
Yeah.
But I'd like to kind of see where it goes, honestly, before like before saying anything more. Like, I think it could be interesting with a bit more time.
Yeah, and I think it could. I think the tone might balance out. It might just be the initial shock of like, clearly both of us have gone, oh yeah, Michelin Web.
Yeah.
I think when maybe that's not as prominent in our minds, it might, feel quite different.
Yeah. So shall we move on to the last book of the month?
Yes.
We shall.
Trve Kvlt, or Trve Kvlt, comes to us from writer and co-creator Scott Brian Wilson and artist and co-creator Liana Kangas, with colours by Gab Contreras and letters by DC Hopkins. So, remember Clerks? Remember Clerks 2? Remember, like, how disappointed you were by Clerks 2? Forget that. No,
because Clerks 3 is coming out next year.
So, Trve Kvlt follows, so far, like, the story of Marty Tarantella, who has been working the same job at this fast food franchise, like McDonald's, kind of alike, called Burger Lord, for the last 15 years. He's been just like felt he's had this potential all that time, and that they've recognized it occasionally. When he'd only been there for 4 hours, they upgraded him from working on the fryer to the grills. They knew that there was something in him, but then they never pushed him that much further until today, when he decides that what his potential really was for was robbing the strip mall that the fast food restaurant is part of. He gets disguised, does this, and steals from all of the shops, getting a shockingly small amount of money for it. But he does it, and then notices a delivery driver as well, who tells him that he really shouldn't take what's in the bag, but he does, and there starts what seems like it's going to be the through line of the series, as it seems he's stolen something that may belong to Satan, or at least some people are claiming it does. So now he, his manager Bernice, and the woman he was interviewing for a job at Burger Lord, was that Sonia or Alison?
Alison.
But the person he's been interviewing for a job at Burger Lord, Alison, are confronted by cult members and are going to have to somehow deal with this. The cover for the next issue seems that they may, in fact, deal with this by delving deeper into satanic ritual power themselves. And I'm kind of into this slacker slash rob, like shop robber, satanic fast food series. It's got a post Clerks kind of feel to it all, of like the low stakes kind of everything so far, like the low stakes robberies where like where the most he makes from any one place is like $600, and he's spent weeks or months even planning this whole thing out. Several stores give him like no money because either no one spends money in cash anymore, or it's a mattress store, and who even goes to those? Like, it's a vibe that like I kind of click with. It's weird. Like, Alison is really interesting as a character. She has like a were either of you reminded of the Christmas, like the Santa story in Gremlins, when she's talking in the interview, talking about her grandma being found dead after like months in like a car.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
It's like, yeah, just like it's just a story, like talking with someone, and then they start telling a story that keeps getting worse and worse and worse, to the point of like absurdity. I enjoyed this. There's a real, like I say, like Slackers kind of film vibe to it. Just people who, like, sometimes have never really either like Bernice are kind of content in kind of where they're at right now, and just kind of like the freedom that they have of doing a job where no one really cares. And there's no drug testing, and it's okay if you steal some food every now and then, to like Marty, who like takes the job really seriously, but at the same time clearly has a lot of inner, like, is not happy with it. Like, he feels like he's supposed to be doing something more, and whether that just be that he feels like maybe he should be the manager or something. Like, there's something kind of just interesting about the whole thing that speaks to me.
I agree. I backed the Kickstarter for this, and I'm glad that IDW are now printing it. I think, a lot of what you're saying, I think there's quite ground level relatability to Marty as a character, even though he's kind of stupid.
And very neurotic.
Yeah, and a little bit too proud of working at Burger Lord, but hey, whatever. I like how quickly this kind of establishes such a clear aesthetic. There's so many like Holy Cola logos and stupid Burger Lord things with the little burger with the halo and the
weird god.
Weird, almost Buddy Christ-esque god. I do think Kevin Smith feels like an influence on this, but also I feel like with the cult thing, there's almost a Tarantino type thing, like Dusk Till Dawn kind of vibes, but kind of with way lazier characters than Tarantino films. All the characters seem busy. I don't think none of these people seem like they've got anything else on. I've read this a few times. The first time I thought it was quite a slow start, and I still think that, but I think it's time well spent in establishing Marty and Bernice and Alison. Even though we see very little of Alison and Bernice in the grand scheme, I think we do get a good sense of who both of them are quite quickly because of the fact that not much plot happens. We don't really get much of the cult. We just get a lot of the true. I don't know what I'm saying, but I think that works. I think we've got essentially three main characters by the end of the issue, and the implication that they've stolen a record from the devil, which is pretty
Yeah, I wonder if it's something that they're going to have to play backwards or something dumb like that.
The first thing when we see him pull it out of the package, it's got that weird aesthetic that's kind of like, you know, that thing about people recycling X-rays and printing vinyl on them?
Yeah.
It's got that kind of aesthetic, and I don't know if that's...
Oh, that's neat. Yes, I'd forgotten about those.
I can't think what they're called, but there is a specific like name for that as a thing. But yeah, I'm curious to see where this is going to go and how weird this is going to get. Weird is my assumption. Angela, any thoughts, feelings, emotions?
Yes. I would agree. I think it's a really slow start to the point where I don't think I enjoyed it as much as you two from the start. I did by the end, but I did have a hard time just trying to get into it because it was a bit of a slow one. But I will say that the characters are well done. The whole aesthetic works really well. The fact the cult doesn't come into the end surprised me because I was expecting that to be a plot point way earlier than it was. I think my favourite bit is the bit where he's actually doing the robbery and like he's getting nothing. And I think that's just an indictment of how things are these days in the world of retail. It's like he's basically working at the only place that's even making money at this point, really. Like the mattress guy's like so excited because it's the first person he's seen since he started. That was really, I really enjoyed that. And yeah, it was interesting. And Alison was kind of interesting. And the fact that, you know, the police officers are coming in, and he hasn't he's got this great plan and it's not gone well, let's be honest. But yeah, he's had this plan.
I was going to say, there's like air quotes around great
plan. He's had plan. But he never thought that the cop, you know, he didn't think like, well, what if the cops come? He's like, well, if I wear a mask, no one will know. And it's like, yeah, but if the cops come in, what are you going to do then? And he clearly did not plan that far ahead, bless him. And I like how sort of Alison's telling this really gory, dreadful story. And Marty's just completely focused on the fact these cops have walked in. But also the fact as well that Alison is clearly more perceptive than she might seem at first glance, where she's just, you know, basically word vomiting some of the Burger Lord propaganda. Like, you know, what place it is. And we don't ask for fries with that because they don't want the fries. They just ask for the burger.
Well, customers know what they want.
Yeah, customers know what they want. That was really good. So yeah, I think it sets things up really well. It can be, for me, it was a little bit of a drag at first, but it did pick up quite considerably. So it is interesting to see where it's going because it's really weird because it is very much, you know, a slacker tale, but also now Satanists. Reasons, yes. So yeah, it was interesting. Words, thoughts, feelings, emotions.
Good job.
All were had.
Yeah.
I think Angela's kind of said everything that me and Matt perhaps hadn't on this one.
Yeah, shall we move on to rankings?
Yeah. I mean, it's been like an hour, but it feels like we've really burnt through these issues really quickly.
It's because we've not got Will here to add, you know, his dose of misery.
He can fax us his thoughts later, and don't know what to do with that. Yeah, rankings and such. Anyone?
I'm happy to go first.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in fourth place, for me is probably Deadliest Bouquet. It just didn't click for me at all. Like I said at the time, I found it kind of overwritten, and I just didn't like I wasn't kind of drawn into any of the characters enough to really care all too much, which feels like a mean thing to say, but it's kind of where I was at. And then after that would be Life and Death of the Brave Captain Suave. I feel that this one could be something that I might look back on in retrospect if it manages to actually do have a solid landing, and therefore kind of it scores enough points to kind of put it over for me. And then 2 Heart Eyes. It's like we were saying at the time, like it looks quite nice. It's got a decent like world, some interesting sort of bits of writing, and I have enough faith in Hopeless that it's going to go somewhere interesting that I am kind of willing to put it down there. Then in number 1, Trve Kvlt. It works for me in a way that none of the others quite do, and yeah, like I want to see where it goes with the Satan.
Well said. I guess I'm already speaking, so I'll continue. So, 4th for me is the Deadliest Bouquet. I'm just not really feeling it. I think it might come good, but I have my doubts. I didn't really connect with any of the characters or particularly the plot. I'm just not entirely sure where this is going. I guess we'll see, but I don't know. Based on this issue, I'm not in. In 3rd, I'm going to go for the Life and Death of the Brave Captain Suave.
Yes, Zach.
I'm hoping the Sir Digby Chicken Caesar vibes aren't as prominent in future issues, and I can kind of put that to one side and forget about David Mitchell's face. Also Robert Webb's face, because he actually is Sir Digby Chicken Caesar.
Yeah.
Oh man, now I can't remember what David Mitchell's character's called.
Oh.
Doesn't matter. It's he's champ in this equivalent. So I don't know. I'm hoping that isn't a thing in issue 2, and it feels a little bit less
Ginger.
Thank you.
That's it.
I'm hoping it feels a little bit less insensitive and more kind of aware. But I'm not sure based off this one issue. I'm also curious just where it's going to go in general. It feels like I have no clue based on this issue 1, but then I don't know, maybe I need to sit down and read Don Quixote, but that's really long, so
it's good though.
Yeah.
There are windmills.
So I'm told.
It did give us it's a series that gave us the name of a good band. A book that gave us the name of a good band.
Yeah, this is true. Maybe that's what I'll do in my spare time. Who knows?
I mean, you were complaining to me the other day about the book that you're reading currently.
It's not that it's a bad book, it's that it's a very boring book. From previous episodes, maybe you at home can figure out what book I'm talking about. Or not. Don't know if I've mentioned it. Who knows? In 2, I'm going to put Heart Eyes.
Yes.
I'm curious about Lupe, and I like a lot of the aesthetic here. I think art is really good, and I would like to see where this is going. I will see where this is going. But the best book is Trve Kvlt, and it's the slacker occult petty crime. No, not petty crime. It's armed robbery. It's not petty.
But it's the it's the
laziest
smallest
crime.
It's the lowest stakes version of armed robbery you could have.
Yeah, because it's not like he's robbing anything. With no offense to mattress stores and comic book shops, he's not exactly robbing like
a
federal bank.
And he's never taking anything off the people.
No, he's taking $600 at best from a store.
And it's like corporate profits he's taking, not like anything belonging to the staff or.
But I think Marty is very likable. I think Alison and Bernice, and what we see of them, they are likable characters. I don't know. I like the kind of incredibly like low budget Ocean's 11 style presentation to the heist, because it's so unheisty. Not sure heisty is a real word, but it's a word I'm using right now. But yeah, Trve Kvlt, it's pretty good. Or Trve Kvlt. No, Trve Kvlt. I can't even fucking do it. It feels too wrong to say V's in any places that aren't the start or end of a word.
Yeah, like the Vivitch.
Bless you. So I agree with Matt.
Yeah, you do.
This must be what Will feels like all the time.
What? Right.
Angela.
Yeah. I'm going to be a rebel, and I'm going to refuse to rank them in that manner just because.
You're just doing it to avoid
agreeing with it. Yes. Yeah, pretty much. So I'm going to top and bottom it. So there are two on the bottom and there are two on the top. And the two on the bottom are Deadliest Bouquet and The Life and Death of Captain Suave, but for different reasons.
Shocking.
The Deadliest Bouquet, I will always champion the fact that we have a female creator with female characters because, it's not great. But there's an effort, and I appreciate the fact that Erica Schultz is, a female creator. We very rarely get a female writer. Most of the roundups we do, it's a bit of a tussle to even try and find sometimes a woman on the creative team. So I'm all for that. I think that she's over-egged her pudding or put too many flowers in her bouquet. I don't know what metaphor you want to go with, but she has.
You know which one to go with.
It's the too many flowers in the bouquet. Because I think she has an interesting setup. She has the potential to have just made a really interesting family drama crime thing. It didn't need Nazi assassins. They're there now, so who knows what she's going to do with them. And in the same way, The Life and Death of Captain Suave has the same sort of a problem, but in a different manner, in that it's trying to say something interesting. The problem with that is that where Deadliest Bouquet is saying too much, The Life and Death of Captain Suave doesn't actually know what it's saying. Tonally, it's too shifty. It's interesting. I think it's an interesting idea. It's an interesting concept. The main character, clearly there is problematic issues with. So, yeah, they are similar but different, and therefore good and bad for the same reasons, essentially. So the top two on my little pile is obviously Heart Eyes and Trve Kvlt, for different reasons, but also the same, in that the character work is better in these two than it is in the other two. So Heart Eyes, you've got Lupe's an interesting character, Rico's an interesting character. Rico's family, they're all right. They serve a purpose. I think the setup's interesting. I think the idea of, because again, they're both taking ordinary things and doing stuff with them. So, Heart Eyes is taking an ordinary girl and throwing her into a weird scenario with monsters and craziness and all the rest of it, even though she's just having a walk down the street. Very normal thing. Whereas in Trve Kvlt, you've got Marty, who is a very normal slacker guy who's trying to do something more with his life and failing miserably. and just, interesting now getting mixed up with slightly crazier stuff. So they've got, that juxtaposition of the ordinary and the crazy, but in very different ways. So I'm interested in where both of those. Okay, I'm interested in where the lower two go, but I think their potential, they're hobbling themselves. Whereas Heart Eyes and Trve Kvlt are, they're pushing things a little bit more. So it's interesting to see where that goes. So those are my opinions. Do with them what you will. The end.
So what? Wait, do with them what I will. Okay, so swap 2 and 1 around.
Are you welcome to? Yeah. But yeah, there you go.
So that was 3 opinions.
Yes.
Indeed was.
And I assume we'll be back with more opinions in the future.
I'd like to think so. We'll be back next week. You and Will are discussing Spy Family, Spy X Family, By Family,
Spike's Family, Spy Cross Family,
Spy Multiplied Family.
Yeah.
Whichever version of that one would like to believe in. And, we have been Angela, Matt, and Zach. This has been Bigger Than Capes August roundup of the books. I like to think we've all learned something today.
Don't podcast whilst tired.
Well, yeah, don't podcast whilst tired. Being pretty high on the list. And remember that comics are
bigger than capes.